funny, every time I saw the guy during the season, whether it was on the field, whether it was on the sideline, whether it was in the locker room, I'd make a mental note to myself to check on his contract status and see, when it's going to come due, all this future money that he's going to get paid, ideally in Pittsburgh. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Steelers. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into hockey and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Penguins and Pirates, the other two teams in town that I cover, in the same place that you found this. I'm talking, of course, about Team MVP Chris Boswell. And if he isn't Team MVP when you're thinking about it like now in late February, ask yourself how you're feeling when you're watching the games. Because all this guy does is come through no matter what's going wrong around him. All he does is salvage 3 points out of drives that really probably should end in 0. And he's only now, I think, getting his due as the premier kicker in the National Football League. A 93.6% field goal conversion rate that ties his career best going back to 2019. But there's one massive difference between those two scenarios. And that's that in that previous instance, he was one of 2 on tries from 50 to 59 yards. This past season, he was 13 of 14 from that range. Mike Tomlin even trusted him to try one that was longer than 60 yards. He missed that. But talk about forgivable sins. This was home, road, weather, nothing fazed him. Now, I'm going to lay out a couple of parameters here. One is that Boswell still has 2 years remaining on his contract, so you can say, all right, well, what's the urgency? Another is that you can say, well, he's 33 years old, and in 2 years he'll be 35. Well, in kicker years, that's nothing. And what I'm thinking is, I don't want to find out how much he's going to be worth in 2 years if he keeps kicking the way that he has. Boswell's current contract, the ongoing contract, pays him $5 million a year. That sounds pretty good for a kicker, right? No. Harrison Butker is the highest paid at the position in the league at $6.4 million. But the rub within that is that there are 9 other kickers making more than Bos. And if I'm Bos, the longer that goes on, the less inclined I am to feel like, hey, I'm just going to hang around here unconditionally because you guys have always done right by me. So, hey, you know what I'm saying? He has a very realistic, plausible chance to be, if not necessarily this good, but close to this good for another half decade. That is a massive headache out of your way if you're the Steelers, regardless of who ends up being their head coach over all that time or whoever else might be presiding. Kickers aren't easy. Young kickers really aren't easy. When you have one, you want to keep him. There's also one other factor in this, and that's that if you have all of this cap space in this offseason, you can stack and structure some signing bonuses in a little bit of a different way. Or let's say, as I've been suggesting all week long, that you don't have exactly needs that could be covered by $62 million of free space, even if you spend a third of it at the quarterback position, even if you set aside another 10 for your draft picks and incidentals. So what you can do in turn is say, all right, well, we're going to sign TJ Watt to a long-term extension, have him finish his career in Pittsburgh as he should. We're also going to maybe take care of a couple other situations that we don't want to be dealing with a year or two from now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not making some kind of big push out of this or whatever. But I'm saying that for a whole bunch of reasons, it's something I feel should be considered by management. Oh my goodness, just picture where this offense would be without him. Never mind where it is with him. We come back, J1Q. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George is a personal injury law firm in Western Pennsylvania that represents injured people in automobile accidents, workers' compensation cases, and medical malpractice claims, the attorneys at Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly, and George pride themselves in doing what they say they're going to do. It's important to them that when they make you a promise, they keep that promise. And this law firm has been keeping promises for over 80 years. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly, and George has been AV rated. That's the highest rating a law firm can receive for legal ability and ethics. And the lawyers at the firm have been designated super lawyers, that's a real thing, for over 15 years. Rare combination there. Luxenberg, Garbett, Kelly, and George has offices in Cranberry, Newcastle, Beaver Falls, Butler, and Elwood City. Learn more about them at lgkg.com or by calling 888-842-5454. Again, that's 888-842-5454. Today's J1Q comes from Michael Norby, and it's interesting. This one had not crossed my mind at all until Mike sent it along. Asks, did the Steelers miss out losing Brandon Hunt to the Eagles and then 2 years later watching Hunt win a Super Bowl? Now, Hunt was a thing there for a while. This was during the GM search, and everyone was wondering who's going to be the guy that replaces Kevin Colbert. And Hunt was seen as a kind of a younger or youngish guy on the rise while he was with the Steelers. That was in his 12 years here as pro scouting coordinator in Pittsburgh. He joined the Eagles in a similar role with a slightly different title, director of scouting, in 2022. And then this past year, he was promoted to become the Eagles' senior director of scouting. And in these roles, which you'll notice have the word pro in there, he's not scouting college players. He's not scouting for the draft. He's scouting other NFL teams and other NFL players for purposes of acquisition or eventual acquisition, or just filling up a book so that the Steelers feel like they know everything that they can know about given players, maybe before free agency or before a trade. Now, I have a couple of things to say to this. One is specific to Hunt, which is there's nobody who can come into a role like that and make enough of a difference in your operation that you can say, wow, the Eagles won a Super Bowl when that guy came along. You know what I'm saying? You'd have to be executing at some level of unparalleled brilliance in pro scouting for anyone in that organization to feel that way. But the other is this, and I'm not coming at you in any way, shape, or form, Michael. I'm going to pinpoint actually who I'm going at here. It's me. I've done, and I am guilty of way too much Eagles envy. This isn't just what I share with you on this show. I think about it a lot. When I was in Philadelphia for the Steelers' loss out there, I was so smitten with what Philadelphia was doing on both sides of the ball, with the schemes that they had, with the people that they had all over the field on both sides of the ball. And then when you graft that onto all the other stuff that we've heard and learned about the Eagles, about the way they're built, some of that from Andy Weidel, who came from over there, it can be intoxicating because you feel like you see the roadway. Here it is. This is what it looks like. Just do this and you'll be the Eagles. Oh, and also do this and you'll be playing football the old-fashioned way and get everybody to love you again. I sit here right now with a figurative paper bag over my face on this count because I have done it nonstop and it has to stop. When I talk to people inside the Steelers and I hear what their ambitions are, short-term and long-term, they don't necessarily talk about the Eagles. They don't even necessarily talk about applying that approach in some similar way. They have their own people who have their own strong suits and drawbacks, They have some players who are better than what the Eagles have at certain positions. The Eagles have a lot of players who are better than what the Steelers have at certain positions. But you can't just wave a magic wand and have everybody look like those guys in green. You just can't. So I'm going to make you a commitment here, Michael. I'm going to make everyone a commitment that beginning this weekend and continuing through the remainder of the 2025 calendar, I'm not going to sit here and gosh wow over the Super Bowl champions. I'm going to focus a lot more on what the Steelers can and can't do, what they should or shouldn't do. And as for answering your Hunt question in trying to be more specific, we have no way of knowing that. We have no way of knowing what kind of impact he did or didn't have. It certainly reflects well on Hunt that he was promoted once there in the past year, but until you start seeing, hearing, and reading his name in the real running for GM openings, then I wouldn't sweat that one too much. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everyone who listens to Daily Shot of Eagles. And hey, I'll see you on Monday.